Welcome, mighty companions. I'm Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to Facebook Live, A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles. A miracle is defined as a correct perception, a true perception, a loving perception. So the Course is saying if we have a correct perception, a true perception, and a truly loving perception, it's a miracle. So that's why it's called A Course in Miracles. If we treat each other right, it's a miracle. If we include everyone in the love and look out for somebody else as much as we look out for ourselves, don't you think that classifies as a miracle? So you kind of can see the humor of the Course. And today we're going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to everyone, that they jump up and down at the very thought of, which is forgiveness. Right. Forgiveness. But the Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness, the Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness, the Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness, which makes forgiveness infinitely easier than what we think forgiveness is. So would you like to learn an easier way to let things go and let go of the past and anger and guilt and grievances? Yes. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to start out with our theme song, which is I Am Not a Victim of the World I See. I am not a victim of the world I see. Brother John Christmas, to kind of give everybody a chance to get tuned in. Here we go. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. That's right. I'm not a victim of my law. I'm not a victim of my law. Not a victim of even circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim, oh no, of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. That includes the good stuff. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim now of the world I see. So would you remember this? You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may resist. I'm not a victim of the North. I'm not a victim of the South. Not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. That includes the good stuff. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. You may actively resist. Do you know that you may actively resist some of the ideas you will find hard to believe? Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh yeah. Okay, so John Christmas at johnChristmas.com if you want to download that music for free, and it's based on the teachings of the Course in Miracles, then you can do that at johnChristmas.com. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Does it sometimes look like it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we all in agreement it can look like it. Okay. Some of the ideas you're going to find hard to believe. Some of the ideas are going to startle you. So good to have you here online and have you here in person. I'm searching for peace. And the Course in Miracles defines peace as complete fulfillment. Don't you think that's a really cool definition of peace? Complete fulfillment, total fulfillment. That's one of the definitions that the Course in Miracles gives of peace.
What page are we on?
Oh, we're going to be on lesson 121 in the workbook, page 214. Page 214. Okay. And those of you who have books handy and you can get your books, I really want to help people be able to read the Course in Miracles a lot easier so that they can get the healing that the Course in Miracles promises. I've shared the Course in Miracles for over 40 years, and the people who get the healings and the happiness that the Course in Miracles gets promises, I've always noticed that always the people who actually study the book. The people who get the results that the Course in Miracles promises in 40 years of working with this, it's the people who read and study the book. It's the people who do the workbook lessons. It's the people who do what to the book?
Study.
They study and read the book. Those are the ones I see get the greatest unexpected miracles and breakthroughs in themselves and in their life. The people who do what? Study and read the book and apply what the book is saying. It's not necessarily the people who attend lectures and classes and listen to tapes and watch videos. Those things all support your study. They're not to substitute for the personal time you give to the material on your own by yourself. I'm just trying to save people time. And I know that the Course in Miracles can seem like it's difficult to understand and read, but it's not difficult to understand. The Course itself says to understand means to accept. So it's not that the Course is difficult to understand. It's really like, hey, it's like the Course, for some of the things that the Course in Miracles says, is difficult for people to accept. So not to understand according, and I'm going to keep saying according to the Course because I'm not here to defend the material. I'm not going to defend it, I'm not going to debate it, and I'm not going to analyze it. My goal as a teacher of the Course is to allow people to hear it and to remember it. It's sort of like getting a recipe and you want to do what? Read the recipe book, and then you want to follow the recipe to get the cake. So I'm here to help you hear the recipe book. Then what you have to do after you hear the recipe book is then you have to go ahead and follow the recipe. And there's a recipe for peace. There's literally a recipe. So we're going to hear, and it's called forgiveness. But forgiveness is, the Course says, correct perception. It gives many definitions, but it said forgiveness is another way of looking at things. Forgiveness is not I'm going to overlook something that you did to me for real in the past. It's not, forgiveness is I'm trying to overcome the person, forgive the person that I see as having physically abused me or whatever I think I went through in the past. And forgiveness is asking me to overlook what I think someone has really done to me. And the Course in Miracles even itself in the later parts of the book says, you can't forgive what's really been done to you. It seems crazy to the mind, but it is possible to go beyond what I can see you have not done. So right now, I just want to hear what it's saying. It's not even about how true it is. So the Course says, well, in order for you to be able to hear what it's saying, then you have to take a certain attitude, and the attitude is, I don't have to believe it, I don't have to accept what you're saying, I don't have to welcome what you're saying, Earl, and I could resist what you're saying, and some of the stuff you say I might not believe, and some of the stuff you say it might startle, but you're not being asked to judge and analyze the ideas at all. This is coming from the workbook. He says, if you use the ideas, do you know if you use something, that's how it means something to you? That's funny. I've meant the most to the people who could use me. Can you feel me? We always mean the most to the people who can use us.
Yes, they do.
And that's not a negative statement unless you feel like you're using someone in a negative way. Then all of a sudden there's a temptation to get defensive. Wait a minute, well, but no. I don't know about you, but I noticed that things I use last longer than things that I don't. Like a car you just let sit up in the driveway rust a lot faster than one you're driving every day. So you might live longer and more vibrantly if you let somebody use you to wake up. Right? So then the Course in Miracles says, next thing I want you to do is understand is if you use the ideas will have meaning for you, and the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. What did you just say? The ideas will show you that the ideas are true. So as a divine repetition teacher, which is what I call myself, and as the remembering coach, my focus in my classes are on helping us hear and remember what we've been told more than trying to understand it, okay? So forgiveness is the key to happiness. Forgiveness is the key to happiness. Forgiveness, I got a key that gets me in that door. So forgiveness is the key. Now, what I've learned from studying the Course for years is that when a person has an immediate resistance or reaction to the Course that's full of any kind of conflict or fear, that's usually because they misinterpreted what they just heard and then scared themselves. In other words, they heard me say something, they interpreted it, the interpretation they gave scared them. And so the Course taught me that whenever I am upset, there is not one single thing that I'm seeing divinely or clearly. There's no such thing as me being in conflict, anger, fear, guilt, and attack, according to this book we don't have to believe, that I'm seeing anything truly and clearly. When you really use that litmus test, it'll trip you out when you come to realize how often you're wrong. Because if being in a sober mood and a sad mood and not feeling happy and you're angry or guilty is an indication that you're not seeing something correctly, because if you were truly seeing things as a child of love would see things, then you would realize most of the day and most of the night you're not seeing things clearly. If a person just made that one little realization from the Course, it would change their whole life. If you learn to stop trusting your negative feelings and anger, you would be a guru on the highest level of consciousness. So the Course is telling me that if you want to be happy, then you have to learn to forgive. But then it says forgiving is a correct perception. So a lot of times with the Course, I substitute what the Course says the definition is. So Instead of forgiveness, I would read it as correct perception is the key to happiness. True perception is the key to happiness. Now, all of a sudden, forgiveness doesn't have the same feel. Now it's like, oh, that's kind of doable, right? I could have a correct perception, and that would be forgiving you. If I was seeing things correctly, I would be giving you love. I would be forgiving you. So I like to help people forgive, but I have one rule. If I work with somebody and with the clarity session for any length of time, you're going to work with me. You got to want what you're asking for. A little bit. In other words, don't come to me expecting me to convince you why you should forgive your father. I ain't going to do it. I will help you if you go, wow, I really think I really need to see something about my father differently. I really want to start moving in the direction of some form of forgiveness. Oh, then I'm your man. I'm your man. It's hard enough to help people change their mind when they think they want to. It ain't no way in the hell I'm going to spend my time trying to convince somebody that doesn't want it. I want to be loving and I'm not. Let alone the people who don't want to be, right? So the course says, read me slowly, and it also says the ideas will show you that they're true. That the ideas will show you that they're true. So let's do the course the way the course says it. Okay, so we know the rules, and then the first thing is forgiveness is the key to happiness. So you could also say the key to happiness is the key to happiness. First, I got to get clear. Do you know this book told me that the reason why I don't pay attention to it the way that I should is because I don't really believe it's going to give me what I want? Mm. That the attention, the problem that a person has with giving something their attention is to the degree they think that thing is going to get them what they want. You pay attention to the jack in your car when you got a flat tire completely, because you think that jack is going to get you what you want. The tire changed. And as soon as the tires change, you put the jack back in the trunk and you never think about the jack again. You've been just like that in some of your relationships. They put you back in the trunk and never thought about you again. Got what they wanted out of you in their perception, right? Achieved the goal that, Ladies, how many times have you been tempted or have you heard about an experience where a man wanted you just for sex? And once that they would have had that engagement, they would lose interest or no longer be, they only talk to get you to the bed, right? So that's why when you got them, you said, they don't never talk to me. Well, there ain't no reason now. That's all. I accomplished the goal. I got the body. Slow and steady. So I like to use the course and think of like little funny examples that we could use in our day-to-day life so it won't seem so abstract, So the reason why, are you telling me that the reason why I don't really focus in on the Course in Miracles is because I don't really think it will give me what I want? Because if I really knew it would give me what I wanted, I would be giving it my full attention. If I thought it was going to give me what I wanted, okay, all right. So I need to understand that the Course says this is the answer to your search for peace. You're looking for peace, you're looking for joy. I'm going to give you the answer. What is the answer? The answer is forgiveness. Okay, that means you have the wrong perception of forgiveness. It means you're not using the Course in Miracles perception of forgiveness. You're still using your egos, your worldly learning's definition of forgiveness. Okay, so the first thing I need is a new interpretation of forgiveness. I need another way of looking at forgiveness. So if you're in a world, are you also in a world like me that doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense at times? Well, it says right here is the key to meaning in a world that seems to make no sense. You're in a world that seems to make no sense. Let me tell you how to give it some meaning. And it's going to start out with understanding that true perception is the key to happiness. Seeing things correctly, interpreting it in a way that gives you love, and makes you feel love and oneness and freedom. That's the key to happiness. A corrected perception is the key to happiness. It says, here is the way to safety in apparent dangers. Did you notice when you watch the news, sometimes it has things about apparent dangers? For like the whole newscast, right? So it looks like I'm in a world of apparent dangers, and then the Course is saying, well, forgiveness, which is the key to happiness, which is another way of looking at things, that's the way you're going to be safe. Here, notice it didn't mention anything external. It says, here is the way to safety, forgiveness, and apparent dangers that appear to threaten you. You got stuff threatening you at every turn, and you got stuff threatening you that brings uncertainty to all your hopes, I love this, of ever finding quietness and peace. It looks like there's something all the time that's threatening my quietness and my peace. He said, well, do you want to feel safe in a world that seems to have dangers that threaten you all the time and makes you not feel certain that you can find quietness and peace? Do you want that, Earl? Do you want that, class? Do you want that, who's listening to me right now? He says, well, here are all questions answered. Didn't say all questions, but whatever question you have. It says, here is where all questions are answered. Okay, so let me get this straight. He says, here is the end of all your doubt insured. At last. One paragraph. That was one paragraph. That was one paragraph. So I always ask myself, what's the point? Well, then he says, well, the point is, this is the key to you being safe in the world that you think is dangerous. This is the way you can be safe in the world that you think is dangerous. This is the way you can be safe in the world that you think is dangerous. This is the way you can be safe in the world that you think can hurt you or cause you pain. I'm giving you the way to be safe in the world, the dream, the perception that you're having. It says it right here. Earl's not making this up. He says, here are all questions answered. Here's the end of all your doubt insured. But I got one problem with this. It's giving me an answer I didn't think of. It didn't tell me what I thought I needed to have my problem solved. You see, I always make up my mind about what I want, then ask God. I go to the Creator after I've already decided what's going to be the best thing for me. I don't ever go to I don't go to the Creator first and say, what do you want me to do? What would you have me have? What would be the thing you would want me to have? Because that would be the best thing I could possibly have. No, I come up with, you're the answer to my happiness, and how can I get her? God. God's purpose becomes to just be a means to my end. That's all God is. God is just something to give me what I say I want. And not doing a really good job at it. Look, y'all, don't get serious. Okay, let's not get serious. We can be sincere. We need to be serious. Seriousness is not going to get you out of this. That was what got you into this. Amen. That's why we're in the world of separation, world of bodies, where we are on the lookout for every kind of thing in the world that we've been taught to think could take us out. So the Course in Miracles is saying, if you want to be safe, there's a way to be safe from every danger that appears to threaten you. There's a way for you to have no doubt. All your questions, we're going to answer it, and we can end your doubt at last. Okay. Now, first thing I want you to recognize is what an unforgiving mind is like. So you won't have any doubt when you're around somebody that's unforgiving. I would love to have seen that for sure on any kind of dating app. Yeah. Right? I would love to be able to recognize people who have not forgiven, because those are going to be the people that are full of fear. So the woman that's afraid of men is the woman that hasn't forgiven them. The man that's afraid of women is the man that hasn't, again, or whatever gender preference you happen to have nowadays that I can't keep up with all of them. But I think all of them are cool and it's all right with me. All right, I'll say it again. Okay. We are going to be told now how to recognize what? An unforgiving mind, a mind that's full of grievances, a mind that's not seeing things correctly, a mind that may project on you, blame you, deceive you, attack you. We're going to describe what that kind of mind is like. We call it an what? Unforgiving mind. Okay. Now, it's full of fear. So take the Course in Miracles slow, it'll blow your mind. It doesn't even matter how far we get today. If we can hear anything that it says. Okay, what's the first thing it said? First thing that it said is, what we're about to hear right now will keep you safe in this world. Is that worthwhile?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Then it told us that then the first thing you need to understand is what an incorrectly perceiving mind looks like. You're right. I want you to know for sure when you're getting ready to connect with a mind that is not practicing the truth. He says because it's full of fear. And then what happens when your mind is afraid? He says, well, if your mind is full of fear, there's no room in you for love to come into you. If you are already full of fear, there's no room for love and happiness to come in you. If we can't understand that, then we have serious mental challenges. If I don't understand that if I already got my refrigerator full of stuff, I can't put no more stuff in the refrigerator until I get some of the stuff in the refrigerator out, then I'm dense. So if you are full of fear, if you are full of grievances, it says a mind that's full of fear is a mind that is unforgiving. So how do I know Earl Purdy has not completely forgiven?
He hasn't cleaned out his fridge.
He hasn't cleaned out his fridge, right? The fridge of fear. The fridge of fear. Now, I could sit up here and pretend to you all that I am so enlightened that I no longer have any fear about anything, but I know I'd be lying to you because I know that I still feel fear. But I know you do too, I wouldn't see you. I'll say it again. I know you have it too, I would not see you. That's a metaphysical law. It's just that right now you may not be in touch with yours. And that would be you seeing it in me. Because projected fear. What I deny in myself, I project into you. So the Course is saying that if your mind is full of fear, there's no place where your mind can spread its wings. See, your mind needs to spread its wings. And do you know your mind needs to spread its wings in total fulfillment? And you need to, he says, this is how you're going to deal with the turmoil of the world. See, I'm going to teach you how to soar above it. I'm going to teach you how to stay above all of this fear, all of this insecurity, all this sense of separation, all this sense of lack or jealousy or attack. I'm going to show you how to stay above the battleground. Because it's hard to be in danger on the ground when you're up in the air. Okay. Just think, don't analyze it, just hear it, right? He says, when you have an unforgiving mind, you're sad. So how can I tell I still have some grievances and some things I need to let go of? I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel sad. Okay, so I know I still got some correct perceptions that I need. Then it says, not only is the unforgiving mind sad, it doesn't even have any hope that it's going to have a respite. It's a mind that when you tell that you could be released from pain, all of us, we could be released from pain. So you could be released from pain. This material is saying you could be released from pain. You could never have any more pain. You could never experience any more pain. It's possible for you that never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever, never, ever experience pain ever again? How would you like to never, ever experience sadness, hurt, or pain? It says, how can you tell when you have an unforgiving mind? How can you tell when you still have some grievances, some things you need to see differently, some things you haven't released yet? I don't care how much you're smiling. It said, well, you'll say you're suffering in some way. That'll be the mind that'll say, I'm miserable, okay? Okay, Earl, are you miserable? Yes. Okay, then that means you have an unforgiving mind. You have a mind that's full of fear, that's not letting love in so that you can really rise above all the turmoil of the world. And I know you might think that nothing will ever get any better for you or that you could ever be released from pain. But when you're an unforgiving mind, when you have a mind that doesn't see things correctly, when you have a mind that's not looking at things through innocence and peace, when you have a mind that's not seeing everybody around you as indeed one with you, what happens is you suffer and you live in misery. If you're wondering why you're in misery and suffering, it's because you have lost the awareness of your oneness with everything around you. It's no big mystery why you suffer. You're full of fear, which means there's a part of you that thinks you're separate from me. And I think I'm separate from you. And I know you think you're separate from me. And you can tell me you don't. That's okay, because I want to say the same thing to you, because that's our goal. We are one means, I hope we are one day. That's what we are one. That's when you hear people say, we are one. I would love to head in that direction. Right? And then he goes on to say, when you're unforgiving, you suffer, you live in misery, and you appearing about in darkness. That's a cute way of saying the way we look at things. You guys are peering about in darkness. And then the Course in Miracles defines darkness as, guess what? A word that my ego doesn't like. What do you think that word is? Ignorance. Oh. That's somebody that word. When I was a kid, boy, my mama, somebody called me, you ignorant. Oh, that was like fighting words, man. It was something about being called ignorant. And then the Course says it, darkness is ignorance. So what? He said, you're ignorant. You're cute. And you can dance your butt off.
I'll pick one.
But you're ignorant. Earl, especially you got the darkness part covered. I did that much. It's like, okay, I wanted a direct message. I need to take a look at some stuff. Right? And the Course says, when you are looking at things through ignorance, you can't really see what's happening, but you're certain that there's some danger out there. See, I'll say it again. When you're peering about in ignorance, you're not really seeing, but at the same time you're going, but I think there's some danger out there. I think there's something or somebody out there that can hurt me. That's what the unforgiving mind says, and that's what the unforgiving mind sees. So again, when I am passing the am I still holding a grievance test with flying colors. But I don't beat myself up about that, because I think it's great if I can get in touch with what's blocking my happiness, but I didn't know about it. So me having to take this test gets me out of denial. See, it's like, do you have any fear? Check. Sometimes do you find it hard to soar above turmoil? Check. Do you sometimes get sad about some things? Check. Does it look like you could never be completely released from pain forever? Check. Do you sometimes feel miserable, peering around, not really knowing what's going on, but certain there's something out there that you got to be aware of? Check. Mm-hmm. So based on that, I got a few unforgiving, incorrect thoughts. So what kind of people do you think I'm going to attract to me? People just like me. Course in Miracles talks in a visual way. It's like if you're a person who learns through pictures, it talks in pictures. Let me give you an example. The unforgiving mind is torn with hate. When your mind hasn't forgiven, you are torn with doubt. I'm doubting this and I'm doubting that. Then it says, when you're unforgiven and not seeing things correctly, another way you could tell is what? You feel real confused about yourself. Do you feel confused about yourself sometimes? Okay. And it says, and let me add a few more people to that. You're also confused about everything else. He said you're confused about yourself and everything you're looking at. So the unforgiving mind, how would you like to be judged by the mind I've described so far? How would you like to be the people that you're around in the way that they're looking at you and the way that they're judging things? Wow. Wow. He says, when you're an unforgiving mind, which is a mind that's not perceiving correctly, it says when you're an unforgiving mind, then it says you are afraid and angry. When your mind is not perceiving correctly and you're not seeing anything correctly and you're blocking your happiness and putting yourself in danger, you feel angry all the time and you have a lot of fear. And then he says you feel weak. A lot of times when you're unforgiving, you have an unforgiving mind. He says you feel weak. Not only do you feel weak, you are, I don't know what the hell this means, but he says blustering. Ain't nobody bluster on me. But that sounds pretty intense. He says blustering. That means you are afraid to go ahead, but you're also afraid to stay where you are. He said when you're unforgiving, you're afraid to go ahead, but then you're also afraid exactly where you are. So I did check. 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 When you have an unforgiving mind, a mind is not perceiving in love and peace and innocence and correctly. He says you become afraid of every sound. Ooh, what was that I heard by my back door? Unforgiving. I'm afraid of every sound. Especially the sound of a police siren.
Amen.
With this colored body. My hand up on the steering wheel. Let me see what I'm asking for. Because I'm the creator of my experience. So if I remember that the Christ, the loving being, is walking toward the car, and I give that being over to the Holy Spirit by saying the prayer that he gave me. Run! No, that would be the ego. That's the last thing I need to do. That's the last thing I need to do is run. Right? But I need to remember most of all that I want to have such a forgiving mind and correct perception that those type of scenarios would never manifest in my life. Because this book is telling me there's a way of thinking and a way you can look at things that will put you in a state of total safety and fulfillment right here, right now, where you are. But I got to give up my plan. By the way, which has never worked. I don't even want to get off on that. See why I'm doing this slow? Yeah. I love this one. You're afraid to wake up when you're unforgiving. You're afraid to go to sleep when you're not seeing things correctly. You're afraid of every sound, but you're even more afraid of quietness. You're terrified of darkness, but you're even more terrified of the light. I'm terrified of love. I'm terrified of fear, but I'm even more afraid of love. You tell me you love me, you'll bring up more fear in me than almost anything else you could say to me, based on what my unforgiving mind has experienced in love. Because think about it. If a person is coming from that perception, they're going to draw people to them that's also in that same perception. So then you got two scared people together, two angry people together, yeah, two people who are confused together. How do you know that's so? Because both people don't pass the test for being totally forgiving, loving minds. So that means we have to be especially tolerant and compassionate for each other. But I want somebody that's better than I deserve. I'm still learning how to love, but I want the Christ love. You know, I want the person to be loving me. No, I do unconditional love. No matter what they do, they just love me and they just forgive me and just give me unconditional love and overlook it. And I want to be around somebody that's patient and kind and someone who really knows how to give me my freedom and it feels safe and secure. It's like, yeah, but I'm going to attract a mind that's like mine. So the Course is saying the reason why you see damnation, the reason why you see pain and suffering in the world is because you're looking at the results of unforgiving minds. This is what happens in a world full of unforgiving people. What does that mean before you try to make me feel guilty? I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just saying that when people are not seeing correctly, they hurt each other. So don't believe you've done anything so bad that you need to suffer.
That's good.
Because every time you think you're sinful and guilty, you're going to see what makes your guilt real. If you're convinced you're so bad, you're going to get the proof. Don't forget, you need not believe it, you need not accept it, you need not welcome it. Some of it you might resist, find it hard to believe, startling, or you're not asked to judge it, he said it at all. Just use it and you'll see that it's true. So if an unforgiving mind doesn't see any mistakes, but just sins, then whenever you don't look at things except at the level of unforgiveness, which is a mind full of fear, then the Course says at that particular point, then you're looking at the world with sightless eyes. He says we're looking at the world with blind eyes, and then we scream at what we see. Woo! He said you all are looking at things with blind, sightless eyes, and then you're screaming at what you're seeing. You're screaming at, what did he say? You're screaming at your own projections rising to attack your miserable parody of life. Woo! Woo! That sounded intense, didn't it? Yeah. For those of you who heard any of that. I say it again. When you see yourself as sinful and you see yourself as guilty, then you see a mind that doesn't see mistakes, it just sees sins and things that people need to be punished for. So whenever you're looking at the world through those kind of fearful eyes, he says you're looking at the world through blindness, and what you're screaming at is your own projections of fear, your own projections of lack rising up that's attacking the miserable life that you're living right now. So your negative thoughts are attacking the miserable life you're living right now if you're looking at the world through unforgiving, blind, fearful eyes. So if I'm full of fear, I'm going to see my own projections of fear looking like they're attacking my own peace. If I'm full of fear, I'm going to project fear into my world. That fear is going to look like it's trying to come back to get to me. It affects my, like it says, parody of life. So what we're all looking at in the world, on the news, everywhere, is our own fear that we projected out, trying to come back to us. But you don't have to believe that.
Thank you.
He says, you can tell when you're talking to a person that really isn't seeing correctly yet because they want to live, but if they would be honest, they'd say, I wish I was dead. Have you ever said that to yourself in your entire life? I wish I was dead. He says, that's because I wasn't seeing correctly. I wasn't seeing the love. I wasn't seeing the blessings. I was not seeing my Creator. I wasn't seeing. That's what he's saying. It's okay that you're afraid. You're afraid because you're not seeing things correctly. You're afraid because of the way you are seeing things. So don't beat yourself. It's natural to have fear if you think you're being attacked. It's natural to feel guilt if you think you have hurt someone. That's a natural reaction to fear, is that I'm going to be confused and I'm going to believe you could hurt me in some way. I'm afraid of you because I'm not seeing you correctly. That's what I mean by I have not forgiven you. I haven't been willing to change my mind about the way I see you. Are you willing to change your mind about the way you see your father, your mother, your spouse, your friends? Are you willing to see it another way? Are you willing to go, I hope I'm wrong about them. I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope I'm wrong about what I'm telling myself about you right now that's making me not like you. I hope I'm wrong about everything I'm telling myself about you right now that's making me feel afraid and distrustful of you. I don't want to be right about the negative, fearful thoughts that I'm having about you right now. I hope I'm wrong. I want another way to look at this. I want another way to look at you. I want another way to look at you. That would be a much better way to approach a person than going, you see what you did to me? I don't feel good right now about what I thought I saw last night. So I hope I'm wrong about that. I need another way of looking at this. Could you give me another way of looking at it? Which one of those do you think is going to have the person that's going to be most defensive? The person that's going to be the most defensive is when you come at them with a statement of what you've already judged about what they've done, and you are angry about it. But see, now, because I've studied this blasted book so long, if I feel angry about it, immediately I'm going beep, 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 beep. You're angry. You're not saying the doggone thing correctly. You're not applying anything that this book has taught you to your perception of this situation right now. You're still using your old past learning, your old ego. Your conditioning is still in charge. How do you know? Because of the way you feel. God's answer is always some form of peace. So you need to just be quiet, because you're getting ready to say something from a totally incorrect perspective, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to regret every single thing you're about to say in anger, because you're absolutely not seeing the situation correctly. Now, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Well, you know why you won't change your mind and go for the, okay, I'm willing to look at it differently side of the mind? You know why you want to hang on to the grievance? Because you have a need to hurt them. You still have a need to attack them. I'm like, whoa. And so when I read this kind of stuff in the Course in Miracles, it's not like he's saying, and Earl, I need you to agree with me. That nowhere in the book there's a, do you think it's true? It's like I'm just telling you what's really going on, so that I'm answering all those questions y'all have about why is the world in the shape it's in today, or why are people afraid, or why is there guilt, why is there sickness. I'm telling you the reason why is because you all have not learned how to truly forgive. You have not learned the correct perception of things. You have not learned the right way to look at what's going on. And then he says, I love it. He says, The unforgiving mind wants to live, yet it wishes it were dead. The unforgiving mind, the incorrectly perceiving mind, right? He says it wants forgiveness, but it doesn't see any hope. The unforgiving mind, the mind that doesn't know the truth, the mind that is not applying the truth, the mind that is not applying the principles of love. He says that mind wants to escape. I want to escape. He says, but I can't conceive of it. I don't know how I can escape. I want to escape from the fear, the separation, the sense of danger, the climate change, or the whatever we think we're dealing with. He says, but there's a part of the mind that doesn't see how it can escape because it's seeing what's not okay everywhere. But what's the point of me going to another place if every place is bad? If it's all bad, then the Course in Miracles is saying, then you can't escape. So that you got to get rid of, I see problems everywhere. I see guilt everywhere. I see fear everywhere. I see lack everywhere. Because when you make those kind of statements, you won't see a way to get out of it. You won't see a way to get out of your lack, your fear, your loneliness, if you keep saying it's everywhere. I went, okay. Then he says, then it's a mind that's in despair. A mind that's not seeing things correctly. He says that's a mind that'll tell you, I'm in despair, and I just think it's going to be that way in the future too. I think the future is going to be as bad as what I'm going through right now. It says, and then the unforgiving mind thinks the way that they look at things is that's the way it is. He says, and it's irreversible. So somebody who's not seeing things correctly, not only are they experiencing all the fear and doubt that we just talked about, they think that the way they see things and the way that it is, it cannot change. It's irreversible. The lack, the separation, the fear, whatever I've gone through, my life can never change. This is irreversible. That's a mind that is unforgiving. That is a mind that is not seeing things correctly. Do you know the thing that that's also a trip is when a person has a mind that's not seeing correctly, that's in fear, that's forgotten that they are a loving being? He said, well, you can tell because this person also condemning themselves. They're also talking about what's wrong with themselves and what they're lacking and what they feel so insecure and fearful about. And then that the person also thinks they can't change. So they're feeling despair when they haven't forgiven. They're feeling despair, but they also think that they cannot change. And everything they see, they think makes them right about the things that they are afraid of. All they see in their world is the proof of why I can never have relationships that work. All they see is the proof why I can never have the kind of abundance and prosperity in my life. He says that once you make that decision about no longer being willing to change the way you look at things, then the Course in Miracles says you are going through all that pain, but I love it, he says, but you don't ask. Well, you all are going through all these challenges in your life, all these things you're talking about, working on, going to workshops, going to classes, doing all this stuff. He says, but you don't ask. You don't just ask. And he says, because you think you know, you don't ask. And he says, and you don't question because you think you're right. So we could get out of the stuff that we were in if we recognized we didn't know, because the ones we recognize we don't know, then we'd be willing to ask. And so do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? So I love how the Course in Miracles says, forgiveness is acquired. I'm going to stop here. That's a lot of simplicity to digest.
My ego just said that.
Mm-hmm.
My ego is like screaming his head off.
What I love about knowing that whatever it is that the part of my mind, all the unforgiving mind was just another word for the ego. You could have just as easily said the ego. That's what the Course means by the ego. It just means the part of us that thinks we're separate and different from each other, that's afraid of each other because of their separation, you know. And so I'm so glad that I can go ahead and know that there must be another world that I don't see that's full of absolute love that you don't have to die to get to. Because if everything I'm looking at is the fear that's I'm projecting from my own consciousness and my own mind, then to have another world, all I have to do is just tune into another consciousness. But I need somebody to show me how to do that, and that's what the Course calls the Holy Spirit, is the part of you that knows how to get you to that happiness and love that you say you want. But you are not the one that can take yourself there. You don't know how to do it. And that's what I realized this morning. I said, you know what, Purdy, you still think you're learning all this so you can do it. You still got that habit of still thinking you're reading these books so that you become better at doing it. And the reason why you're reading this book is so that you can get better at getting out of the way and letting me do it. I'm trying to teach you how to let yourself be helped. Wow. So, all right, mighty companion. I'm going to do one little quick recap in a minute. You know, one good thing about knowing that I still have some forgiveness to learn to do, some correct perception, is that I hate to think I was doing it right and not getting the result. And what this has told me is that I'm, oh wow. The reason why I haven't gotten the result is because I have an unforgiving mind. I have a mind that's full of fear and doubt and misperceptions. I have a mind that doesn't see you all correctly all the time and will see you as somebody I need to be afraid of. I mean, you still are basically strangers to me at an ego level, at a personality level. I don't really know any of you all in the personality level really deeply. So it does look like the separation happened. Doesn't it? It looks like we are really different, separate people. And he's saying, yeah, that's the way things look to a mind that's full of fear. So it's time for you to tune into the part of you that knows the oneness that we share behind this perception of separation that we see. See, I see you all as separate from me. So I want to tune into the part of my mind and your mind that knows we're not. But I don't want to try to convince your minds, because the ego's sitting in the chair, that's the part of us that wants to be separate. So it's not going to be able to really buy into anything that's talking about oneness and joining. So we gotta learn. We are learning how to communicate to people with people beyond their egos, beyond their ideas that they're separate. It's going to be so much easier than trying to talk to people to get them to change. Wow, I don't know where they came from, but I never let my subject matter get in the way of what I have to say. So I just. Because the Spirit keeps saying you all make it so much harder than it has to be because you won't listen. It's like you just it's already laid out for you, but you just won't listen because you've been taught as an adult that the most valuable guidance you can receive is the guidance you give yourself. So therefore, he says we have a tendency to discount information that comes from others if we didn't think of it, just because it came from them and not from us. He said, and that's why you're discounting what the Course is saying, because it's not information you thought of. He says, do you know, whenever people asking for your help, he says, that unless you tell them how the other person is going to have to change, or the outer situation is going to have to change, or what somebody else is going to have to do to make it better for them, he says, they don't hear you. See, if you ask the average person is asking for you to tell them the things outside themselves that need to shift in order for them to have things the way they want it. They're not asking you for another way to look at the situation that they're in. So all you have to do is look at it the right way for them without saying anything. Because your mind is joined with theirs. So whatever goes into your mind goes into everybody's mind. And if you really have a need to share and to talk about it, then Spirit is going to send you the people who need to hear it the way you say it, and the way you say it is best for them in their level of understanding. So people that Spirit send you to communicate to and help, you feel moved and energized and inspired by working with them. When I get through working with my clients and people that work with me, especially those who work with me on a regular basis, I never feel drained after the session. I feel inspired. I feel like they help me as much as I help them, because when God sends you your friends and your relationships and your partners and all those kind of things, one of the ways that you can tell is that it will be a relationship of great ease. But if you find yourself in one that's not, then Spirit is just like a GPS. It'll take you where you are and then reroute you. So right now you might have made a left turn, you should have made a right, and now you're in a left turn relationship. And then it takes you where you are, right? It doesn't tell you to go back to where you made the wrong move. The GPS takes you from right where you are to the destination. That's the God positioning system. And that is what the Course in Miracles is doing for us. I just have to follow the directions. I don't analyze my GPS, I follow it. So those of you, I'm a full-time teacher of the Course in Miracles, and if you'd like to make a donation, I appreciate that. That is awesome. A financial investment of appreciation. Thank you so much. You can also use Zelle and PayPal and Venmo and Cash App. My email address is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. Thank you so much for your generosity on every level. Thank you so much. You're such a blessing to me. Those who would like to have one-on-one sessions with me called clarity sessions, where we take whatever your issue is or whatever it is you'd like to see differently, and if you're open and receptive to me using the Course in Miracles and 40 years of working with people and bringing it to your issue, then have a clarity session. And just go to my website, and it describes it in detail. And then you can self-book a session right from my website, earlpurdy.com, earlpurdy.com. On Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, we do hardcore Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live on the Earl Purdy page. That's also a class that's especially for those who are studying the Course. And I'm glad that anybody and everybody watches. But after having invested over 4 decades of my life into the actual material, I really want to share the gift of what that does to your mind and how it can really save you time as far as your own journey through the Course. If I can show you ways that you can read this book for yourself that'll open you up and blow your mind. Because I have read myself out of more problems than I could even tell you about, where I had something coming from what appears to be the outside world, was some type of really critical, challenging situation, I would have the presence of mind to get in my car, go to the park, and read the course until I started feeling better. That might be 30 minutes, that might be 5 hours later, but I have never focused in on the truth and showed that little bit of willingness and said the prayers that it says say, and not have seen the situation resolved. I'm waiting for the first time that this happened in 40 years. If I will actually do what it's saying, which is read it without believing it. Be willing to hear the truth, even if you don't understand it. That's symbolic of your willingness to learn. And that's all I'm asking for, is a little willingness. I'm telling you the direction that to go in. He says, you decide on that. I'll give you all the rest. He said, but you got to want it. You got to want peace more than you want a person, a material thing. Your peace has to be absolutely the most important thing to you in order for you to have it. Oh, whoa. Wow. But that's your total fulfillment. Your total fulfillment. All right. Thursdays at 7 o'clock Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook Live. There's a ton of videos online. Would anybody care to say one thing they heard today that really kind of hit them and impacted them and stood out for them?
You can't win if you don't ask.
Yeah. We don't ask. We do everything but ask. Would you pass this around right quick?
Sure.
If you give me that information, is to let you know when I'm not here, so you will be able to know. And another way you want to get in touch. Anybody else?
I got one.
Okay. Yeah.
It's important. Earl, I think you. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but there are so many people that need to hear this message in order to be empowered. And I'm going to leave that there, but that's not what I wanted to say, but it is what I'm saying. I love the fact that you said we can be, and you said it before, we can be on such a level where we don't even attract this.
That's right.
You have no idea how many people need to hear that.
Well,
and that, understand it.
That was why it was so deep just a few weeks ago when he was saying, if change your focus and what you see is going to change. Change your focus. But we want to make, again, the ego part of the mind wants to make it more complicated than that. Yeah, but it means I had to change my focus though. And my focus has been on the Course in Miracles. I changed my focus. And then I had a world that went with that focus. I saw the world that this book was talking about starting to come into focus. And that loving world comes into focus more and more and more every day. But there are some days I see the old focus. And it's a day that I see as a day of conflict or fear in some way. But I would be lying if I didn't say those days were becoming less and 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 less as I put my focus on something other than the darkness, other than the fear. And then form relationships as much as possible with people who also share that goal of being sane and being peaceful and wanting to be happy more than they want to be right. And most of all, people who are willing to take some responsibility for what they're experiencing and not project and blame it on me and say I'm the reason why they're going through stuff. So at least now I know the kind of people to look for if I'm going to have an intimate, close relationship with anybody, not just a lover, but a friend, anybody. How much are they taking responsibility? How much do they feel like they're joined with me? How much does peace really matter to them? How do they see things? Communicate, listen, ask them what they want with you, what they want out of the relationship with you. All you have to do is ask.
That I am quite the creator.
Mm.
And if I'm an extension of a creator, that means that that I created you, right? And then, hold on, it gets better. Is that you're just an extension of me because I put this perception on you, and so when I'm dealing with you and I'm dealing with all the other people, it's just me. It's just me.
But see, and all that really matters is Are you going to look at me, no matter what I am, no matter how I got here, no matter what it's me, you, another dimension, whatever, the only thing that matters is, are you going to look at me with a forgiving mind, or are you going to look at me with an unforgiving mind? Are you going to look at me with a mind that's focused on truth and love, or are you going to look at me with a mind that's been educated and conditioned by the world of separation? See, the ego would love to get us to analyze who's an extension of who and what is an extension of what. But that's not the issue. Ultimately, we're just the same thing. According to this, it's just the same thing, or whatever it is. But if I'm going to be in whatever this is and not feel like I'm in danger and worried about my safety, then I need to learn how to correct my perception and have my perception corrected. I need another way of looking at things, which is what the Course is giving me, and that's forgiveness. That's forgiveness, true perception. But I have to learn it. But here's the catch. The more you learn it, the better your experience becomes in your perception. The more love you seem to be seeing happening. The more connection you see. It's not like I got to learn and then I get depressed about it. It's like I could be a happy learner. And that's what I decided to be, that I want to happily learn. I'm not going to look like I'm somebody's trying to pull me to a prison camp when they say anything about picking up a book or meditating or studying or reading, because every time I change my focus, what I see changes. And there's no way you can focus on love and peace and truth and you not start to experience it and start seeing it in your world. Forgiveness, correct perception, truly is the key to happiness. It really is.
I hate to think I was doing it right and not getting the results.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That's why I hope I'm wrong. Because if I'm doing everything right and I'm still miserable and I'm not getting it, then where do I go? If you're doing it right, how can you do it more right than right? Right? So if you're already doing it right and you're not getting what you want, where do you go from there? There is nowhere to go if you're doing it right. So actually, every time you're in this state of anger or fear or unhappiness or depression or sadness, hope you are wrong. Even though in many metaphysical circles saying right and wrong is even a challenge. But guess what? I don't care. It said use the word wrong, so I use the word wrong. If it said use the word right, I use the word right. The point is that you are not alone in anything that you're going through, and Spirit is asking for permission to give you what is your divine right just because you exist. Stop thinking you have to pay for it or earn it.
We already earned our place here.
The concept of earning is why we are here. You know, if I make up a paradigm that my happiness is going to come from what I earn, whatever I focus on, I'm going to create. That's what I'm going to make. That's what I'm going to perceive. And then you'll be in a reality that it looks like you have to earn every good thing that you receive. So we're moving from an earning paradigm, we're moving into a gifting paradigm. And so we're having to be completely re-educated around receiving. So it's so beautiful where we're being taken. We're leaving a paying, earning paradigm and going to a gifting, sharing paradigm. So mighty companions, thank you so much for coming today. I can't wait to listen to this again. Listen to it at least 4 times. Watch it at least 4 times if you really want to let yourself hear what's being said. And just admitting that you have an unforgiving mind, that is you actually going beyond it. Because it's hard to move past an obstacle that you're not willing to look is right there in front of your face. Right? So the fact, why could I look at my unforgiving mind today? Why could you listen about your unforgiving mind today? Because you're going beyond it. That's why you could look back at it. If it was still all you were, then it would be like trying to describe water to fish. But the fact that you can step outside of it and go, wow, there is a part of my mind that feels sad and is worried about the future. Okay, then if I'm able to do that, who is that that's able to witness that? What part of me is that that's able to look back on that? You all are tapping into something that's going to blow your mind. Because there's so much love waiting for us. But he says, if you're not ready for it, you might try to kill yourself. I mean, that book says stuff like that. If you're not ready for happiness, some people, they get so used to suffering as a way of life and struggle as a way of life that if they had a sudden healing, they might try to take their own life because they wouldn't have anything to live for. Because they're so used to living for their drama and living for the struggle and there's an identity built up around that. And I just thought that was so. He said, so healing must wait for your protection. So the happiness and the answer that you want is actually just waiting for your protection until you would receive it without getting depressed and afraid. That's what this book says, that kind of stuff. And, so I want to be a part of people hearing that, because I realize that many people have never heard what this book is saying. They'll never pick this book up. And I want it to be heard. So I see myself as want to be a messenger. I want to be a better and better messenger, demonstrator of this. Because it's got some mind-boggling stuff that'll make everything easier for us in our perception. He said, you're going to always, as long as you look through your physical eyes, you're going to always see differences. Because they were made to see differences. So you're going to, even when you wake up to who you think you are, you still don't see bodies, you still don't see differences. Because your eyes were made to see differences. But he says, but if your mind has been healed, you disregard them. That's wow. Right. It's like, you aren't different. You are joined, even if you don't see it. It's like, and then if you see it, it's going to pull you past the differences. And all of a sudden, you won't be focusing on how you're different from everybody. You'll be focusing more on how you are joined and unified and the same, even though you're expressing yourself in special ways, because we want it to be special. That's what he said. He says, you all want it to be special. Okay, poof, now you're special. You all got your special characteristics and your personalities. You succeeded. Now, we're going to take your uniqueness and we're going to take your differences and we're going to use that to point all of us toward the direction of awakening and oneness. We have the same purpose, even though it look like we have our apparent differences. And you love those differences because you know that's a unique way that the love is going to come to you. So you're excited and you're not bored, and at the same time you're remembering your oneness with all that is, which makes your whole experience safe. Would you like to learn how to do that? And I go, yes. Okay, are you willing for it to get easier? Because I know you're programmed toward harder. Okay, would you be willing for it to be easier? Yes. See, ask. Right? So you all go out and ask. And I appreciate you so much. You're such a blessing. Such a blessing. Let's give it to us.
Oh, that process. Yes. So you gotta have someone
Love ya.
go through it with you.